There are four sets of questions we should each be asking ourselves every so often as a process check for our health. Am I undernutritioned or am I overnutritioned? Am I undermuscled or am I adequately muscled? Am I able to deliver huge volumes of oxygenated blood throughout my system on a regular basis? Am I able to do high-intensity efforts repeatedly without being totally devastated for hours after? A cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. Three of those questions apply toward the four pillars of longevity, of quality functional longevity: musculature, stability, endurance, VO2 max. Having at least adequate musculature available is important for a number of reasons, one of which being, when you get older, things just get tougher. Having the muscles there to be able to do what you did when you were younger is like gold. For those of you that are not as old as I am, keep that in mind, because someday you will be. That brings us to the second pillar, stability. Now, stability is a function of muscles, but for this conversation, for this discussion, it's its own separate category. The fifth leading cause of death in the elderly, which I'm going to assume is 60 plus, is falling. So it's not necessarily from not only from falling off cliffs or falling up from the top of the stairs and breaking your neck on the way down. I'm going to guess that it's also from, let's say, falling and breaking your hip, and now you are immobile. And if you have other issues that you're dealing with, being immobile like that is just going to compound to the problem and maybe make it even worse, a lot worse. Of the four pillars, stability is the worst one for me because I just don't work on it that often. And I'm starting to a little more, but I have a lot more to do. So, my sport is racing bicycles, but that's a linear action. There's no side to side. Playing basketball is a great way to work on your stability. I go on long walks with my wife. And so just that action introduces a little more stability. Jogging and running, which I don't do, is also good. Trail running is also great. What I do now is, get out of the shower as I'm drying myself off the towel. I'm standing on one leg. See, I'm in trouble with that. One leg and balancing that way. Do that for a certain amount of time. Obviously switch off to the other leg, that type of thing. Doing things like that. Also do it during work. I have one of those desks that raise up. I'm about to fall over. Okay, there we go. On to endurance. Your organs love blood flow, especially oxygenated blood flow. Stagnation leads you down a slow road to degradation. And what about your brain? You get older, there's a higher propensity for various forms of dementia, including Alzheimer's. And one of the things they recommend for Alzheimer's to help stave it off or to delay its effects is exercise. By exercise, you're exercising your muscles, you're also delivering oxygenated blood up to your brain to help clear away waste materials and not let things plaque up, for lack of a better term. And now on to the last pillar, VO2 max. Now, to have a good VO2 max, you have to have a good endurance base. So those kind of go hand in hand. So let's look at VO2 max a little bit deeper. They have these morbidity charts. I'm trying to catch my breath now. And they compare different groups to see how the morbidity of one compares to the morbidity factor of the other. And these are usually based on a 10-year time period. So let's take, for example, a group that has kidney disease, a very debilitating disease, versus a group that does not. Just looking at those two, there's 5 times more likelihood that somebody from the kidney disease group will die compared to the non-kidney disease group. So if within a 10-year period, let's say there's 2 people that die from the non-kidney disease group, there'll be 10 people that die there. So now let's apply that morbidity chart to other groups, to VO2 max. So let's say you have a group of people with poor VO2 max, below average, above average, and that covers about 97–98% of the population for that age group, and then the rest of it, the 2 or 3%, is going to be elite. Going from poor to elite is going to be the same as going from non-kidney disease to kidney disease, or vice versa. That's a 500% difference there. With VO2 max, just going from poor to below average, that cuts it in half. That's a 250% increase. So that person with a poor VO2 max is going to have a 250% better outcomes in the morbidity than the person with poor VO2 max. So as you go up to the next grouping, which is average, and then above average, you'll have diminishing returns, and they're statistically important, and they get smaller as you go, let's say, much smaller as you go from above average to elite. Attaining a certain level within each of those pillars is a great goal to have. But what's going to make you healthy is working toward those goals. Consistency is the key. The body adapts to change, and the body adapts to stress. So if you give it stress on a regular basis, the body's going to respond to it by adapting to it, by making you stronger, let's say in the case of muscles, or in the case of your endurance, by adding more mitochondria to the cell. It takes a lot of energy to maintain muscle. And if you're not using your muscles, your body's going to start taking that muscle away and use the components of those that it breaks down from that muscle in other areas of the body. But as long as you keep introducing stress, the body's going to respond and keep adding more muscle. And remember what I told you about muscle. When you get older, you're going to need it. Lifting weights and calisthenics aren't the only way to build. What about endurance? You back a little farther, run a little farther every so often, the body's going to respond by putting more mitochondria in your muscle cells. That's going to build your base. With that bigger base, then you can build a higher VO2 max. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. Please comment below if you want to see more videos like this. As always, remember, think long term, and comment, like, subscribe, The Cycling Greek.